Welcome to the DTOS news desk. We are still in Dubai, and joining me for this interview is Mr. Richard Arlove, who is the CEO of Arphilia. Arphilia provides consulting services to companies both on their strategic and operational developments. A seasoned professional with over 30 years experience, garnered across various business environments, Richard shares with us his views on the UAE and Mauritius as complementary gateways for trade and investment in and through Africa. Richard, thanks so much for joining me today in this interview. Really excited just to gain more insight, further insight into both Mauritius and UAE as jurisdictions.
My pleasure.
Right, so let's start with Mauritius. I mean, Mauritius has always had a reputation as a sort of safe and trusted competitive financial center, and a preferred jurisdiction for foreign direct investments into Africa. According to you, is there a need for additional gateway investment into Africa? If yes, do you see the UAE as having that or having the required attributes to do so?
Right. Look, I mean, Africa is a huge continent, very big, and there's place for many players.
Yeah.
Now, Mauritius started to be a financial center mainly for India, and then diversified into Africa. And since the last 10 years, roughly, I would say, Mauritius is seen to be one of the most prominent and most reliable financial centers for Africa. And that has been achieved on the fact that Mauritius cares a lot about governance. There's a lot of governance, lots of regulation. Substance is required when you operate in the Mauritius Financial Center for Africa. I would say also Mauritius as an African country has the right attributes because it's got the right agreements with Africa.
How do you see the UAE and Mauritius IFCs being used as complementarily for investment and trade into Africa?
I think when you look at the UAE today is known to be a big logistics hub. Logistics in terms of shipping, of airline, and of the ability of people to travel. I think Emirates as an airline has done a great job, and many of the clients that we have in Mauritius love to be in the UAE in order to be able to travel over the continent quite easily. Honestly, you travel in the continent more easily from here in the UAE than from Mauritius. So I think that logistics hub is definitely a big complement to what Mauritius can offer. I think the other thing is also, this is a place, the GCC, not only the UAE, but the GCC is a place where there's a lot of capital. And increasingly, as I meet people in the UAE, in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, and so on, money is lined up for investment into the continent. Now, it's a question of finding the right service providers, the right banks, the right environment that can then make sure that this money flows into the continent, and the investors are happy that whatever is flowing in, they can track it through the right governance so that they can then track their returns as well. So to that extent, I think UAE is providing these complementary factors to what Mauritius already has.
What do you feel will be Africa's economic challenges in the next 5 years, and how do you feel Mauritius and UAE could be key in helping the continent overcome these challenges?
Well, before we reach the challenges, I would like to say, and I believe it, that Africa as a continent is a really land of opportunity.
Yeah.
Obviously, it comes with lots of challenges. It comes with a big youth population,
yes,
which is in itself a big opportunity. But if this youth is not put to good use, then it becomes a real problem.
Yeah.
So it means that I think education is important in Africa, the challenges. It means that food security is an issue. It means that we need to be able to leapfrog on the continent through technology into doing things that normally would take years or decades to come up. And this is why fintech is so popular, for example, on the continent. Now, how can we as financial centers, UAE as well as Mauritius, help to do that? I think many investors, as I said before, are looking at the ways to facilitate or to send investment and FDI into the continent safely. And this is why financial centers are important, because you can structure to financial centers and then send the money out, the funds out, make sure the governance is there so that then you have the right application of these funds. Now these funds, I think increasingly on the continent we see that impact investment is important together with ESG, environment, social and governance. And this is important because it helps investors invest into companies and organizations in Africa, and at the same time make sure that this is applied to tackle the SDGs, for example. You know? And we in Mauritius, and I know for UAE as well, the service providers are increasingly being taken to task, not only to look at the financial returns on investment, but also to look at the impact that these investments are having on the population, on the environment, and on helping tackling things like, as I said, poverty, youth empowerment, youth education, and so on. So in a nutshell, I think the financial centers are in fact adding value in joining the dots between the investors and the need for investment in Africa. These investors can be outside of the continent, but also a lot of them are on the continent itself.
Richard, thank you so much for those incredible insights, and that's going to be a wrap for us on this segment of the DTOS News Desk. If you would like to learn more about Arphilia Consulting, you can go and check out the contact details in the description below. My name is Mark Morel. We'll see you again.